Okay, hi, I'm Chris. Now raise your hand if you're ready for classes and exams to be over with. Okay. Gathering the motivation to do this presentation was like pulling teeth for me. So actually sitting down to do it made me think of walking through woods, coming to a dirt road, and not knowing which way to go. So I thought about it for a while, and I found a different picture. My mind drifted, and I thought to myself, I never understood why people dress their dogs up until my mother did it to my beagle. Now, I'm sure the dog doesn't like it. It is cold in this picture, but he's got fur. He doesn't need an extra layer, but it does make for a funny picture. But I digress. I was talking about the topic of my presentation. And since work is slow this time of year, and I had some time saved up and summer's approaching, I decided I'd share some thoughts I had for what I'd like to do this summer. Between working long hours with very few days off and coming here every week to speak with you folks, this year's been tough, so I decided that I need some serious R&R. I thought it'd be nice to spend some time with my family, maybe go to camp, sit outside, have a fire, have some laughs, and generally a good time with the people that I love. Now my mother took this picture. That's my brother and sister, and my father's around somewhere. You can see his truck in the top corner there. Now I can't forget to mention my dogs, because I love them too. Any mention of time spent this summer will have to include Snoopy and Jack. Snoopy's the brown one, Jack's the black one, if you were wondering. They're both 9 years old, so they grew up together. Jack's a lab, and Snoopy's a beagle, of course. I love watching my dogs play together. I like to go fishing, too, but it's probably not the best idea to bring Jack along, because you'd never catch anything with him running through the water. It's funny, the first time I ever threw something in the water, he ran after it and sank like a rock. He learned to swim real quick after that. Now we can't keep him out of the water. I'm sure some of you, at some point, like to just get in the car and drive on a nice day. And I can't think of a better companion than a dog that wants to know everything that goes on in the front of the car. Drive by anything from animals to statues, and this one will have a fit. Who needs a radio? And inevitably, there will be days when it rains out. Days when it's gloomy, and it's nice to just stay inside. I can enjoy those days too. I can watch Netflix, I can watch Amazon Instant Video, I can read the news, read a book, or I can spend a boatload of time playing my favorite video games. I think by now I've got it covered. Some thoughts on what I'd like to do this summer. Sure, there's going to be lots of work, exercise, laundry, and all that other stuff. But at least I have a good plan for some recreation this summer. What are you going to do? Thank you.
Okay, Justin up next. Marissa reviewing. You get your sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so hi everyone, my name is Justin Camilleri, and I'm starting my Pecha Kucha presentation on the presidential election. Now, I kind of chose this topic because I feel like you can kind of spin your wheels on any presidential election for about as long as necessary. But in all honesty, everybody in this room has their own opinions. I'm just going to spend some of my time voicing some of my opinions about the way I think this election's been going. And yeah, so let's get started. So this is the year of 2016, which is our presidential election year. We've had tons of different candidates, some a little more controversial than others, specifically on the Republican side. We've seen a lot of different kinds of candidates. We've got senators from different states that have been radical religious nuts, in my personal opinion. We've also had a lot of businessmen who weren't necessarily viewed as political candidates, but more, economic revivalists. Typically, we see our negotiations between the Democrats and Republicans, which are our two main political parties. We see different candidates running from each side of the ballot, and basically there's a preliminary stage where we can see here that between Bush, Walker, Trump, Cruz, Paul, Rubio, these are just some of the Republican candidates that were trying to earn the nomination for the Republican nomination. Now, it's clear that some candidates have had more of a front-running position than other candidates out throughout the election. Specifically, Donald Trump has received huge amounts of political support, not necessarily from the actual offices that are still in place, such as the legislature. They don't like him at all. You talked about the Senate. He's been receiving hate mail from all kinds of different political sympathizers who basically said that they will not support Trump even if he does win the election, which is where we started to run into a problem and why we look towards more of the Democratic side of the election, which was between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, who are our main two candidates as of right now for the Democratic nomination. However, Bernie Sanders has recently fired about half of his campaigning staff, which is leading people to believe that Hillary Clinton will be the recipient of the Democratic nomination. However, many people believe that Hillary Clinton has been in office and held a position in office for a bit too long. Some people would say that she might be bought and paid for even, because she has spent so much time in the political scope that it's hard to believe that she hasn't received any kind of influences from lobbyists, outside energy, bigger corporations, and she has been at the source of some kinds of scandals, especially in regards to media. But then again, these are all just my opinions. I mean, it's your vote and it's still your choice, which is why I chose to talk about this topic, because I'm a huge believer in the democratic process. I think that the fact that we as Americans get to make our own decisions in society and we get to make the choice about who our next president could be and be the leader and the voice for our people, I think that's a huge notion about what it means to be a part of our society. And I'd like to take this one to just let people know about how lucky we are to make this choice and why I respect everybody else's opinion as well. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you learned a little bit of something about the Democratic and presidential nominations, and that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, Brooke, presenting.
Oh shit, where's the
And Lord
No, Firebox. Yeah.
probably right there. There we go. Oh shit. Can I just go back to the blog?
Should be able to get it from your blog.
Oh yeah, anybody can log in.
Are you caught up?
Sure. If you don't mind, I had moved you as a reviewer earlier, but I still need a reviewer at this point. Do you mind doing one extra sheet?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Sarah, do you mind? Could you grab one of those review sheets for? Oh, even better. Okay, yeah, actually, you're right. Thank you. Why don't you do it, Sarah? Thank you very much for reminding me. Thank you.
I know it's F5. I can just press.
Yes.
Okay, so hi, I'm Brooke Capel, and behind me is my dog Cody. And today I'm going to tell you why it hasn't been super easy for me to take care of him since I got him. So when I was 12, our family dog died, and when I was 13, my parents got a divorce. So me being overdramatic as a 13-year-old, I convinced my mom the only possible way I could go on is if she let me get a dog. So after weeks and weeks of convincing, she finally said yes, as long as I was the one that took care of him, fed him, took him on walks, all that. But I like to call these the younger years. I didn't care about him really. All I wanted to do was go to the movies with my friends. And all of that went on for 3 years until my junior year of high school. I moved into an apartment with my dad that didn't allow dogs. So my sister was finishing her 5th year of college at the time, and she agreed to take care of him while I couldn't. However, I didn't find anyone to take care of him, so she graduated a short year later, and the task of finding him a home fell back on me again. So everyone in my life told me that it would just be a lot easier if I could find a family that would actually take care of him, but this was annoying. He's my dog. I wanted to keep him and family. So I thought of my aunt and uncle, who they're both veterinarians, have 4 dogs, or 4 kids, 3 dogs, so he'd be a great fit there. So the summer before my senior year, I drove him out there. I saw him twice over the next 2 years until my aunt and uncle called and said that the other dogs were beating him up a lot. He was running through his electric fence to get away from them, and it was really heartbreaking. I was a freshman in college at the time, so I really couldn't take him, and I had to go pick him up again, and I was really nervous for where he was going to go this time. So during the summer, I lived with my grandparents, and he was allowed to stay with me there while I found him yet again another home. And this time I really thought I was going to lose him. So my grandma found a friend of hers or something like that agreed to take him, and it seemed like my only option at the time. I decided to live out the summer, like doing as much as I could with him because I thought these were like our last days, until I was at my friend's house explaining how upset I was about the situation to her mom, and she explained that her mom, my friend's grandma, was really looking for a dog. She was old and lonely, and I brought him over and they hit it off right away. But obviously her grandmother was getting older, so that didn't work out for more than like a week. And my friend's family actually took him back home where they also have a puggle named Jack. And it kind of the rest is history. They realized that my dog, since he's so much older and more mature, was good for their dog. They coined the phrase "The Sweet Life of Jack and Cody" from the Disney Channel show, and basically it stuck. So from living with me to my sister in Maine, then with my cousins, back to my grandparents, my friend's grandma, and now her family, he's had a pretty nomadic life. He's turning 7 in October, and I'm lucky to have found people to look after him these past 4 years, and I can't wait to bring him here to Syracuse next year. Thank you.
Okay, Ruby presenting and Ashley reviewing. I'm sorry?
Can I click on it on this side?
Yeah.
It just takes you to the location.
Yes. It right there you go. Click down under attached files. Right below. There you go.
It's the one on the left.
Oh.
No, right. Yeah, there you go.
This one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it gonna just finish?
Yep.
Alright, so I chose, my name is basically Alan, and I'll be talking about who is Tupac Amaru Shakur. So I want to start off by saying that he was born. It's not.
Hit escape
Oh.
and then start it over. It'll start.
Okay. My name is basically Alo, and I will be presenting who is Tupac Amaru Shakur. So I want to start off by saying I'm sure, I don't know if most of you guys have heard of who Tupac Amaru Shakur is. He was a rapper back in the 1990s, and a lot of people have known him as a rapper, as a poet, as a thug, as an artist, as a revolutionary, but he was always casted in the media with negative light. So I want to start off by saying that Tupac Amaru Shakur was born on June 16, 1971, to his mother, Amy Shakur, who was part of the Black Panther Party movement, which at the time was the civil rights movement of the 1970s, which followed the ideals of Malcolm X. and his mother was the person who seeded the roots of his revolutionary side. So Tupac Amaru Shakur started his involvement into the art by being casted into Raising in the Sun as Travis. He wrote poetry. He did ballet at the Baltimore School of Performing Arts. He read a lot of Shakespeare work that he later on incorporated into his rap. He was also a very avid reader. At the age of 17, he read the books The Art of War, The Prince by Machiavelli, Ponder on This by Ashley Bailey, The Phenomenon of Man, and the Tibetan Book of the Dead. He was always in constant search of knowledge and was constantly questioning their meanings. Most of you guys know him as a rapper. He used his platform to create a voice for the young black male, and he talked about topics that had to do with oppression, with police brutality, with racism, with institutionalized racism. He also was an actor as well. He casted on his theater roles into Juice, Gridlock, Poetic Justice with Janet Jackson, Above the Rim, and he also came out in a couple of TV shows like A Different World next to Jada Pinkett. He was one of the first rappers to cross over into acting at the time. Also, his impact on the world was worldwide. You can see that he has murals in Brazil, in Spain. He has a statue in Germany, and his voice spreads over into different cultures, different languages. Tupac's voice has been studied by professors at Harvard University, at the University of Buffalo, at the University of Berkeley, who they all have studied his work. He's known as the search for the modern folk hero, and his impact, and they have studied his impact on everything from entertainment to sociology. So I want to end off by saying that, in Tupac's words, that in order to measure man, you have to measure man fully from his actions from beginning to end. Also, I also want to say that that is what makes him one of the most important rappers of our generation. Thank you.
Okay, Ryan presenting next, Greg reviewing.
Just wait like 10 seconds and see if I goes Alright, ready? Hi everybody. Today I'm going to tell you about a national treasure. Located in Lake George, New York is Sir Goonie Golf, a place I believe to be the greatest miniature golf course in America. Now, who am I to say this? Well, my name is Ryan Drum, and I've played mini golf probably about 300 times across this great nation. I've played mini golf on all kinds of places in all kinds of states with all kinds of different people, and I have determined a way of ranking mini golf courses that I believe is very, very efficient. The way I've broken it down is into 3 basic criteria: theme, challenge, and experience. Theme is the theming of a mini golf course, how it's decorated. You know, a Pirates Cove theme mini golf would have lots of pirates around. Challenge is how difficult it is while remaining fair, and experience is the overall experience a mini golfer has when attending a given miniature golf course. Let's get right into theme. Goonie Golf is very, very unique to the Lake George area. It combines 1970s cartoon fairy tales and a very kind of cheesy, campy feel that you get in the Lake George area. Lake George is full of kind of dingy motels and kind of prides itself in that, and Goonie Golf really embraces that Lake George culture. Here's some pictures of the golf course. As you can see, the models and holes aren't exactly the most efficient, the most technologically advanced, but they really embrace that kind of kitschy 70s look and are very unique to the area. In fact, you can even see some Lake George monuments depicted in some of the holes. Now let's get to challenge. As a mini golfer, I want something that challenges me but remains very, very fair. Goonie Golf is an excellent example of this. Here on hole 8 is Spook's Castle, where the miniature golfer has to putt the ball through a haunted castle full of ghosts. Now, there's no chance or luck involved, which is what I like as a miniature golfer. The ghosts spin around and you just have to get it through. It's all based on skill. Another hole, hole 5, the Gooniesaurus Rex, is exactly the same. It provides a high level of difficulty as you have to put it through the dinosaur's legs, but there's nothing left to chance. If you're a good miniature golfer, you will get it every time. I don't want any chance derailing my great miniature golf. Next up is the experience of Goonie Golf. It's second to none. There are signs everywhere that guide people around, making foot traffic very, very efficient. No one likes to be stuck behind a slow miniature golf group, and Goonie Golf makes sure that doesn't happen. The hours are also great. It opens at 9 a.m., very early for a miniature golf course, and on weekends closes past midnight, which I very much appreciate. The experience goes beyond the course as well. The Goonie Golf gift shop is probably one of the weirdest gift shops you'll ever go to. It offers everything from Goonie Golf apparel to lamps and garden gnomes for your home. You can really bring the Goonie Golf experience from Lake George, New York into your home and enjoy it each and every day. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope you guys check out Goonie Golf. It's a fantastic miniature golf course. Thank you very much.
Okay, Connor presenting next, Arnold critiquing.
Good evening. By a quick show of hands, how many of you guys have visited the Buffalo, Niagara Falls area? Okay, so a few. My name's Connor Green. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what you can do in Buffalo, Niagara Falls. As you can see, it's 2.5 hours down the 90, and yes, it's called the 90. You don't just say 90. And it's located at the top of Lake Erie. And as you drive down the 90, you'll pass the sign, Buffalo, an all-America city. So America, we don't care about grammar. On the way to the city, you'll be able to see Ralph Wilson Stadium off in the distance. Now, if anyone follows Buffalo, they are trying to build a new stadium. And that was largely due in part to when they were trying to sell the Bills. Now, if you go to a Bills game, there's a camaraderie. Even if you don't like sports, you'll still go, you'll tailgate, you'll have fun. And the camaraderie extends outside of the stadium. When they were trying to sell the team, Bon Jovi put in an offer to buy it, and Buffalo, as a city, banned him from playing on any of the radio stations because they were afraid he was going to move the team to Canada. Now, what better way to talk about crazy Buffalo things than over a nice plate of hot wings? Now, these are from Duff's, and if anyone's probably heard of Duff's or Anchor Bar, they're two of the most famous places for getting wings in Buffalo. Now, I took this picture with one of my friends because we went there and they're pretty great. You get fries, it's hot, medium, mild, don't do barbecue. Now, Buffalo's also ranked number 3 by National Geographic for best food ever of all time. This is Canal Fest. It's located at the mouth of the Erie Canal. And it's a week-long festival. They have great Czechoslovakia. The line's always 100 people long. And they have fireworks. This is taken right before the fireworks show, as you can see. And another fun, adventurous thing to do is to go canoeing or kayaking, which I do, on Niagara River. I took this picture of myself canoeing about 2.5 miles upstream from Niagara Falls, which is a little bit risky, but you can still do it. I took my 5- and 7-year-old little brothers out, and they can survive it. You can survive it, plain and simple. Now, Niagara Falls, this is a picture taken from the Canada side. This is the American Falls, Bridal Falls, and the Horseshoe Falls. Bridal Falls, if you guys want to go there over the summer, ask your boyfriend, girlfriend out. That's where my dad proposed to my stepmom. Still going strong 9 years later. Second time's a charm. And at the bottom of the gorge, you can go hiking. It's like 2.5 times the amount steps to get down there, so be prepared, know that. This is a hike about 1 mile down the trail. It's called the Whirlpool. You can actually pay about $50 a person and get in a boat that'll take you down here. Do not get in the water. You will die. You will not survive. They'll find the body 3 months later in Canada. Speaking of Canada, this is right over the border. It's a 15-minute drive from downtown Buffalo. This is me and my friend Catherine, Clifton Hill, bunch of bars, strip clubs, restaurants, and it's really great for nightlife, especially for teenagers. Between the ages 19, don't have to worry about getting caught, and it's right over the border if you walk. So I hope you guys all learned something and want to visit Buffalo.
Okay. Mohit, presenting, and Tyler, reviewing.
Have you guys ever wondered what life would be like to live in a mystical world full of dragons, giants, magic, and other supernatural creatures who are made of ice? Well, what are you waiting for? That's exactly what my favorite TV show, Game of Thrones, is all about. So Game of Thrones is a TV show that was created on the Game of Thrones is a TV show that was created on the based on the famous novel series by George R.R. Martin called A Song of Ice and Fire. The series actually started in 1996 when the first book came out. The fifth book came out in 2011, and the sixth is still being written. It was originally planned to be a trilogy, but now the series has been extended to a series of 7. This is what the main plot in this is what the main plot of the show is about. This Iron Throne. Anyone who sits on this throne has the right and authority to rule all the 7 kingdoms of Westeros. Personally, I'd love to see my favorite character Jon Snow sit on this throne, but George R.R. Martin is not that nice a person. The show takes place in a medieval setting, and most of the shooting is done in various. That's why most of the shooting is done across various countries such as Croatia, Morocco, Malta, Scotland, Iceland, and even Iceland. This actually here is the image of the capital city of Westeros in the show, but originally it's the city of Dubrovnik in Croatia. The plot of the show can be separated into 3 distinct categories. The first is revolves around who gets to control the power and authority over Westeros by having control over the throne. As you can see, there's multiple houses with their strongholds trying to get control over the throne and control Westeros. The second part is about the White Walkers, which are mythological creatures up in the north that swarm down south to attack all humans at the start of the show. These creatures are scary because they can create snowstorms, they can create blizzards, they can raise the dead to fight for them, and they're near impossible to kill. The third part is about the dragons. This is about a Targaryen girl who's exiled from Westeros and who brings back dragons to the world to conquer Westeros back again, which is her family's old kingdom. But she's gonna have a tough time because she needs to fight all the way across to Westeros, and dragons are not easy to control. Given the show's increasing popularity, they've also had increased problems with privacy. Currently, in recent years, Game of Thrones has been the most pirated TV show all across the internet, with over 8 billion illegal downloads every episode, which is almost as much as the viewership. They also have a lot of nudity and violence, which is increasing viewership, but at the same time, Turkish military banned them for that reason. So why watch Game of Thrones? There's a bunch of dragons, White Walkers, magic, and other mystical creatures. Don't you want to know who gets to sit on the Iron Throne? Don't you want to know what happens to the dragons and those White Walkers, who eventually wins? If you do, go to HBO tonight and start watching this show right now. Thank you.
All right, almost there, folks. Just a few more left. Dick presenting next. Bree reviewing.
So not a lot of people, especially out here on the East Coast, really know exactly where Minnesota is specifically. It's in the Midwest, way up north, bordering Canada, and up near states that no one really cares about, like the Dakotas, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. It's the 12th largest state. So it's also this state called, or the land of 10,000 lakes, and that's because we have so many lakes. We actually have almost 12,000 in total. They're mostly like the ones you see up here, all connected by small channels. This is actually the lake that I live on, Lake Minnetonka, and it's little pockets of water everywhere. So our state bird is extremely prevalent around the state. It's the loon. You can see them on nearly every lake flying around. And the state flower is the pink and white lady slipper. They grow freely throughout the state. People also like to plant them in their gardens and just all over the place. They grow like crazy. So next we have the Minnesota Vikings. So a lot of Minnesotans are very proud of our team, even though we are not a particularly good team. We've never really won a Super Bowl. We've never really done a lot, but we're getting there, and we're building them a new stadium, and I think the future is going to be pretty bright for the Minnesota Vikings. So the next places of interest, you wouldn't really think Minnesota is a place you want to go to see things, but we do have a few things. We have Mall of America, which has its own full-size indoor amusement park, and there also is Red Bull Crash Ice, which is an event at the Cathedral in St. Paul every winter that hockey players race downhill on ice. So next, hockey. Hockey is a very important thing in Minnesota. It's the state of hockey, often referred to as. Most people play at a younger age. I know all my friends did, and 13 of the 20 players for the team, the Miracle team that beat the Russians in 1980, are from Minnesota. So this is the Boundary Waters. This is the northern part of Minnesota that stretches up into Ontario, Canada. It crosses the border, and it's over 1 million acres of wilderness, so it's just dense forests with just pockets of water everywhere, and it's completely connected, so it's only accessible by canoe. Now, the weather in Minnesota is pretty horrible. It's one of the coldest, if not the coldest state. It's reached a record low of negative 60 degrees Fahrenheit without wind chill, and every year it's so cold that they build this ice castle right here, which you can pay to stay in like a hotel. People do it. So now some notable individuals from Minnesota. We have F. Scott Fitzgerald, who made The Great Gatsby. Obviously, we've all probably read that. Prince, who recently died. His recording studio and house is right down the street from mine. And Bob Dylan also is from Minnesota, a very small town in central Minnesota. So thank you, and I hope that some of you can come and experience the land of 10,000 lakes sometime soon.
Okay, Viraj presenting and Rachel reviewing. You saying you want to skip the title? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or just do it correctly.
If you want to start
If I
from
start from here, it'll just go normal.
yes, it'll start with slide 2.
Or should I just do the continue from this side? Actually, I'll probably do it from this side. Okay. Hi everyone. Unlike most adults, I actually failed my first driving test. I'm from Princeton, New Jersey, and in my opinion, the driving test is way too hard. No, I'm kidding. Although I failed on a technicality, it was probably one of the most humiliating experiences of my life. So there I was, 17 years old. That's the age in New Jersey to be eligible to take your road test. Having already passed a written exam and already taken my 6 hours of driving lessons, I was so ready to tackle the road test and become a fully licensed driver and get out on the road, start driving. So there I was. I pulled up into my lane for the road test.
I was very excited. I felt confident with my ability to parallel park, drive through some cones, follow some signs. As I pull up to my lane, the seemingly friendly driving instructor approaches the window and instructs my dad to step out of the vehicle. She proceeded to tell me to pull the car up without having stepped in the vehicle, and it was a trap. Apparently, you're not allowed to move the vehicle if you're by yourself. So without even getting in the car, she failed me on the spot. She said, listen, you move the car without anyone in it, you have failed, show up in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks later, I go all the way back to the DMV, ready to take this test one more time. This time, slightly more nervous, because now I'm overthinking everything. I hadn't even seen the test before, and if I failed this one, I had to wait 1 month, and I was not prepared to do that. So, practicing everything, I was ready 2 weeks later, and finally I passed, and I was able to drive the car I got for my birthday that I had to watch in the garage for 2 weeks without doing anything. I guess that's the consequence for failing your driver's test. I know for a fact I made sure I knew all the tricks. A friend of mine actually failed for failing to ask the driving instructor to put their seatbelt on. So naturally, I drove everywhere. I loved driving. I drove to school, home, everywhere imaginable. I probably spent more time in the car than I did not in the car. My parents advised me naturally about driving safely, not speeding, texting and driving, and within 1 month of having my license, I get pulled over for a 4-point ticket. I was speeding, of course, and I zoomed by a police officer who proceeded to turn on his lights and pull me over. My logic was that I was just going fast so that I can get home before the 11 o'clock curfew, but he wasn't having it. So currently I don't have my car on campus. I don't know whether that's because of my poor track record or because of the amount of tickets I've accumulated over my driving career, but I really think that one day my parents will give me the opportunity to bring my car up to campus so that I can drive around this beautiful place. Thank you very much.
Okay, last presenter of the night, Lily, with Leah reviewing.
So now, how many of you guys like to travel or love to travel? Me too. Hi, my name's Lily Kim, and today I'm going to show you my love for travel, but more specifically about some of the service trips that I've gone on, countries like Uganda, Nicaragua, and Peru. I've had the great privilege of going with campus organizations as well as my church back home. So Nicaragua. I actually went to Nicaragua sophomore winter break, and I went through an organization called Global Medical Brigades. And I went with Syracuse University Ambulance, a group of us, along with other Greek organizations. And while we were there, we spent 2 weeks working at medical clinics as well as building concrete floors and septic tanks. And you can see right here, that's one of the girls that I got to work with. And while we were there, we got to hang out with some of the kids. We woke up really early in the morning every single day around 5 a.m. to see the sunrise, and little did we know we wouldn't see sunrise once. Next, we have Uganda. I went there my freshman summer break, and we were there for about 6 weeks. I initially didn't know what I wanted to do that summer, and my floor mate decided to come to my room and say, hey, I'm going to Uganda, want to go with me? And so we got to go through an organization called Nourish International, which is here on Syracuse's campus. This is some of the communities that we got to visit. Now, I will say this trip was absolutely amazing, but the worst part of this trip was probably the drive from where we were sleeping to every one of the stations that we were at. It took about 3 hours to get there and go back, so it was a total of 6 hours every single day just to get to a location and get back home where we were sleeping. We actually got to build pit latrines while we were there, which is like a toilet, but in the ground, it's like a dugout hole. But the unfortunate part was while we were building it, there were no bathrooms, so if we needed to go to the bathroom, we had to go out 100 feet into the field and just kind of do our thing. Now, we also got to visit the local communities, and this is a community where, you know, families live, and they actually live in pods, so like groups of families live in one area. This is a school near that community, and they actually gave us a small presentation in English because they recently learned some of the English words. And lastly, Peru. I actually went to Peru twice for 2 weeks both times, in 10th and 11th grade in high school. And what was great about this trip was I went through a local church, and we got to teach English in those communities. We also went to, I think, the highest point in Peru, which everyone got sick from because of elevation. What was great was towards the end of the trip, after the second year, we already knew them from the previous year, and they wanted to keep in touch with us, so we actually shared each other's Facebook, and we still keep in touch to this day. We talk about the great dance moves that we learned together, and yeah, so I hope that you guys once get to go on a service trip and continue to love traveling. Thank you.